Okay, hi, I'm Megan LaCroix. We're here with Fatima Tekko, and we are going to talk to her about her life and Ambitious Future, LLC, and everything around that. So, Fatima, I was doing a little bit of reading about you before, and I saw that you have a project called, you have a company, a business called Ambitious Future, and I was wondering how you started that, what inspired you to start that?
Wow, that's going to take a long time. No, long story short, I've always been passionate about working with youth and, promoting young entrepreneurs and the youth that do have the skill set to move on, doing bigger things in life. It came about when I started working for the public school district about 10 years ago. And I just was so passionate about working with the kids and doing things. I wasn't in the classroom per se. I was more in the counseling office as a liaison. And I was able to bring in different people and athletes, socialites, whatever it may be, and host events for these kids. And, slowly I started developing a network with a variety of different careers, individuals with different careers. And I just kind of looked around and said, well, what could I do with all of these people? Mm-hmm. What can I bring to life? So that's when I came about Ambitious Futures, hence the name Ambitious Futures, future for ambitious young adults. Then I started, just hosting events, getting the youth involved, and having them pretty much run the show. Like what a lot of people don't know is majority of the events that I take part in are youth oriented. A lot of them intern underneath me, and they go out and help me more so help them get to where they need to be.
That's awesome. Yeah. They're the most underappreciated of our populace. Mm-hmm. They're not respected, and I feel like they're undermined all the time. Mm-hmm. So what were you doing before you started Ambitious Futures?
I worked for the Dearborn Public School District as a liaison, and I was doing the exact same things, but in particular for the school and the district itself. It started off real slow, just kind of doing positive behavior programs and just being a mentor to the kids, putting on fun activities, dodgeball games, teachers for student, basketball games, all those cool things that the kids really want to do, but we found a way to link it to promote positive behavior. So what we started to do is, rather than punishing children for their bad behaviors, we more so started to reward those that are exhibiting positive behaviors.
So paying attention to the right behavior.
Exactly. So random acts of kindness, things like that. So we started with, doing that, and it just started to get bigger and bigger as my network was growing, and the athletes started coming in. I had mascots, socialites, whatever, dignitaries, former athletes. It just got bigger and bigger, and it was so funny because right before I left, everybody would jokingly say, oh, you're the celebrity teacher, and I'm just like, no, I'm not. Let's just leave this about the kids. So,
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Did you see yourself being involved with the youth like this when you were younger, or when you were starting your career?
Funny story, and my brothers and sisters are going to laugh when they see this, because I thought I wanted to be a teacher my whole life. I thought I was going to be a teacher, like I was destined to be a teacher. And I used to line up my teddy bears and teach them, and just be like, "You're not listening." Like I was speaking to my bears. I was just passionate about working with kids, but I thought teaching was the only way to do it. It wasn't until maybe 5 years ago when I got into my college years, human services, and I just realized there's so many different ways to work with youth. And I remember doing a presentation for one of my favorite professors. He was so good. And it was sports related to youth. And they were saying, well, you can't really do much with human services or social work with kids in sports. So I found a way to put together an idea of how sports saves the youth in the community. And, how being off the streets, being engaged in sports, being with the athletes, things like that, they're just motivational, and it gets them to be more academically involved because they have to be. So from there, it just evolved bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's awesome. So where did you go to school? What did you do?
For my human services, I actually went to Baker College.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were just inspired, and you just took
Yeah.
off from there?
Well, what happened was when I was a liaison, we had got a supervisor who just kind of knew what my skill set was like, and he really motivated me to go back to school because I had done so much. I had started to go into teaching and then realized this isn't for me. And then I started going to nursing and realized this isn't for me. Went back to teaching, and at that point I had 2 kids and I was working a full-time job. So I'm just like, college maybe isn't for me. I'm just going to go with my experience. And he just really pushed me, and he was like, you have, such a good network in the skill set. All you need is the degree to proceed. So that's when I decided to go back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what were you like as a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up, and what were you like?
Well, I didn't, I'm just going to go based off of what I hear I was like.
Okay.
I wasn't really like the loud, out there type child. My sisters are a little bit older than me, so I grew up closer with my younger brothers. And to be honest, I fit in with the boys. I'd be at the park playing baseball and basketball and football, and yeah, I got involved with tackling. They just kind of, I fit in. And, like I said, I always knew I wanted to work with kids. I just didn't know in what capacity, because I thought teaching was the only thing. So over time, I learned how many different ways we could do it. And now I've found, incorporating art, music, fashion, sports, so many different things. It's ridiculous. My first set of graduates, students that I had worked with, graduated last year. And I mean, they were art majors, dance instructors. And then this year I have one, she's graduating, she's already got her own business up and going. I'm working with a group of foster kids right now who are presenting business ideas. It's the diversity of the kids, the backgrounds, the ethnicities, the religions, however you want to put it. Our youth are our future.
Absolutely.
And if we don't motivate them and mentor them and get them into the right places, they're not going to end up there because the lack of people out there working with the youth.
Absolutely. In relation, or I guess in context to working with sports and athletics, what have your experiences been good, or have they been respectful? Being a woman and being involved with athletics, or
I had a feeling this question was.
And I know.
So there's always the misconception of athletes and music artists and things like that as being the macho man that are always going to hit on you. But again, hence the name AmbitiousFutures. The guys that I tend to work with are ambitious, towards whatever they want to do. A lot of them, yeah, they do play the sport, or yeah, they are musicians, but they also have a passion and a niche somewhere, that they want to help the youth, they want to work with the youth because they once were that youth.
Right.
What I've come to find is the majority of successful athletes, socialites, celebrities, dignitaries, actually come from a broken background.
Yeah. And
that was what saved them. So what they always, tend to do is want to find a way to give back, but they don't know how to do it, where to do it, and that's kind of where I come in. And it's so funny because I really developed more of a friendship with majority of the guys that I work with now, the males that I work with, before I actually had done any work with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that worked anywhere between Chicago, Florida, Georgia, New York, Connecticut.
Okay.
Been a lot of different places. So I don't necessarily stay in Detroit, but I bring those networks to Detroit because That's my main goal. My main goal is, we have such a beautiful city, and you go to all these other cities and you ask yourself, why do we not have that? When we have the big, beautiful buildings, we have the networks here. Why is everybody leaving to go do what you could do here? So
absolutely. And that was one of my other questions for you is what makes you stay here? What drives you to be here? What is the thing about Detroit area that keeps you here?
As much as I say, Georgia, Atlanta is like my home away from home. For the longest time, I kept saying, I want to move to Atlanta. It's the most beautiful place. There's so many things to do. But then I look at it and I say, well, what different is it than here? And there isn't. It's just that we don't as a community get out here as much as everybody else does in all the other cities. You know, over the past maybe 2 to 3 years, I've noticed a lot of diversity in the city. I've noticed a lot of growth in the city, which makes me really excited because, you know, at first when I was like, oh, well, I can't do this here. I don't have the right connections. I was ready to flee. I was ready to go. I literally packed bags and ready to go. And then I just kind of realized, you know, I've already established everything that I want to do here. Why would I leave it rather than bring to it? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I've decided to stay around.
Okay. And I'm going to switch back to kind of like youth involvement. What are some of your favorite things that you've done with the kids?
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah. The camps are always fun, like the sports camps, because I do have 2 boys of my own, mm-hmm. and seeing them involved, where majority of the time I'm just like, go play, go be a kid. They want to help. Mm-hmm. They want to assist. They want to do things. I mean, seeing them want to be so involved is very exciting because if, you know, I'm making an impact on my own kids, I can't imagine what kind of impact I'm making on kids who don't have the parents, who don't have the guidance, who don't have the mentors in their life. So that's always a good thing. But in regards to the funnest thing, we do this annual picnic every year. It's called Jump in the Summer, and it's the one that I'm working with the Amor, Moda on. Okay. They have a fashion show that usually follows it up. But all the models and, you know, a lot of the sponsors and the vendors and stuff that are involved in the show come out to this event and give these kids and their families a different view of how they are involved in the community. You know, like you were saying, we had the conversation before we started earlier about the young women having insecurity issues. Right. But then when they see these models who are actually not just models, right. They're actually entrepreneurs, they're actually teachers, they're actually social workers outside of this modeling world. They're normal, as youth would categorize them, they're normal people. So to see them out there motivating the kids is always a good thing. But if I had to say my absolute favorite would have to be anything with the athletes. I had this event, and I wanted to do it again so bad this year, but unfortunately because of time and money and resources, I wasn't able to. It's kind of a back-to-school thing, and it was just the back-to-school bash. And the first year I had done it, it was an absolute success. Everything was donated from food to clothes to shoes to school supplies, gift cards, free haircuts, nail spa centers. Like it was really cool because it was everything. We had a DJ. They were able to go out and have like a little skills camp with some trainers, and it was just anything you could think of that a child would need to get back into school, they were able to get. And those are the most like heartfelt things for me when I walk away and I realize I was able to get some things for the young kids and for their families that they don't know are accessible. Mm-hmm. They don't know that these things are available. And I remember growing up and the excitement of having my new backpack or, you know, these new pair of shoes that I was going to wear on the first day of school. But how exciting was it to know, like, we had Nate Burleson there and Andre Fluellen. They're from the Detroit Lions. Well, they played at that time. And how exciting to, you know, be on your first day of school with a backpack raffled off by Nate Burleson. Right. Or a pair of shoes from Andre Fluellen. Their thought isn't this stuff was donated. Their thought was this athlete gave it to me. Right. And it just, I mean, not that the athletes, they're just so involved and so committed to. Excuse me, I just got emotional.
I know, sorry.
Seeing these
it's so
kids,
beautiful.
it's just, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling in the world. Just, I mean, Nate's been a huge help in my growth, to be completely honest. I'll never forget one day we were having a discussion of what could we do for the kids in the city? How can we bring them together? And he had stopped by my office at the school that I work at. So I said, you know, I want to show you this classroom next door. There's this teacher who's like super obsessed with the Lions and sports in general. And Nate is he's such a game changer. He's just always ready for anything. he walked in there, and I'm trying to remember what the literacy, the lesson plan was, but he went in there and just, I think it was synonyms and antonyms, that's what it was. He went in there and started teaching that lesson to the kids.
That's so sweet.
And they were just like, oh my God, we had Nate as a teacher. But that specific group of kids, that's all they talked about for months. It was just one class of like 30 kids. And it wasn't that he taught it to them that they were going to remember what they learned, but it was more so the experience of having somebody that's supposed to be this athlete that's untouchable, unspeakable, like you can't go approach them and talk to them, to see how normal it was for him to come in.
Person.
Yeah.
And the kids probably start to think that they can do that. They can achieve that type
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it opens doors, because then the kids get to see that there's a stigma of, oh my God, it's an athlete, I can't speak to him. When in reality, they just want you to speak to them like a normal person.
Everybody wants to just be talked to like a normal person.
Right.
That's awesome.
So it's like a give and take learning situation, I guess. It's super cool.
And so you've mentioned a fashion company. What is it called?
Amor Moda. They're actually, Amor Moda is their business group name.
Okay.
Amor Fashion is the name of their fashion show.
Okay.
So down in Tunisia, I lived out on the East Coast for a little bit, and then when I came back, I was so obsessed with fashion. I was like, oh my God, we don't have this in Detroit.
There's none of it here.
Well,
I know that there is a little bit. There's not that much.
Yeah, so a friend of mine through Instagram, it was an associate, I should say, through Instagram, he just kept saying, I'm modeling in the show, you should come out, blah, blah, blah. So I had met up with Tanisha to get my tickets that year. And I was just so excited. Her energy level was through the roof. I just knew this is going to be my future best friend. I just knew it. It felt like a little kid. But they actually hosted it downtown at Campus Martius Park. And it was beautiful. It was the nicest fashion show that I had attended. I mean, I hadn't been into it that long, so I hadn't seen much before. But to see that in Detroit, it was the nicest thing I've ever seen. So from there, you know, we stayed in touch, and the following year after that, she had said, well, I kind of want to do a giving back piece, because through the first one, the money that they had collected, they had donated to Children's Hospital. This year, the following year, they wanted to do something a little different, and I said, well, I have all these resources, and you know, maybe we can do something for the youth. So she says, oh, let's have a picnic. I said, okay. So we went out and just started getting more resources and gathering information. And the first year we had it was a huge success. It was over at the Lyle. All the food, all the stuff was donated. We had bounce houses, we had music, and then to see the models come out, and you know, they had the water guns running around playing with the kids, water balloons. It was a ton of fun. Like, we all turned into kids. It was just a great time. But the actual resources that were given for us to give back to encourage a positive, productive, safe summer is really what was most impactful. There's just so many opportunities for them to get out and get involved. So to get that packet along with, you know, some awesome like wristbands and little treats and things like that inside it was just the world to them. And for it to be absolutely free, it was just, this stuff doesn't happen around here. Everyone was like, well, are you sure you don't have to pay anything? And I was just going to say, no, you're paying by giving me a smile. Yeah. You're paying, you know. So we had it again last year, and the sponsorship rate was, again, even bigger. I mean, it was just phenomenal. So this year, rather than having it outdoors because we don't know what the weather is going to be like, we're actually looking to have it at Hype Athletics, which is just outside the city of Detroit. It's in Dearborn Heights. Okay. But Hype Athletics has also played a major role in the growth of my career, because I've done a lot of mentoring for them, put together an actual mentorship program. We got judges, lawyers, police officers involved, pairing them up with youth in the community who needed mentorship. They went off and job shadowed with them. They checked in with them. And, you know, they have tutoring programs, but again, it all revolves around sports. It's an actual sports facility. So, I mean, to have a sports facility that has a full library, computer labs, classrooms.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just like home, really, for a lot of these kids. They would come straight from school, do their work, and get on the basketball court.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was just, it's a great place to be. So the networks are just growing and growing and growing. And then the really cool part about the fashion show is we've had some athletes actually model. Jason Jones, who plays for the Detroit Lions, was a model on the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Crawford, I can't remember who he plays for now, but he modeled in the show. So it's really cool. And then, Chris Douglas Roberts. He's from Detroit, always willing to give back, great with the kids, who's a huge fashion head, front row at the show, huge donation piece. It's awesome to see these guys get involved because it does give back to the kids. At the end of the day, that's what's happening.
So how can people get involved, and what are your future projects? What are your projects for this year?
Well, I'm always open to have people involved. I'm always looking for an extra hand. I currently work for a foster care foundation. I do a lot of human resources as well as program development. And, volunteering to work with these young adults from, being at the house with them or other programs that they're involved with. There's the Michigan Enterprising Youth Program that I was just talking about earlier. They're young foster kids who are presenting business ideas, looking for sponsorships, from magazines to clothing lines to, whatever it is that you can imagine. And they're, 16 to 18. They're young kids. Send me an email, shoot me, a text, whatever it is. I always have something going on, and I'm always looking for people that want to get involved because it's not easy doing it alone. Because you feel like you want to save the world, and you can't. You can't do everything single-handed. So I'm always looking for people who want to be involved and just help out, volunteer, bring their resources. I think the biggest bridge that I had to cross over was finding people who were as open as I was to share those resources.
Absolutely.
And, as a city, we're not going to be able to grow without having that relationship with each other. I can't say, oh, I know so-and-so and I work with so-and-so, whoever it may be, and then just hold that person committed to doing only the things that I'm doing. Whereas it's more so, how can I use this person resourcefully? How can I reach out to this group resourcefully? How can we connect these worlds? And that's how I came about. I mean, I've done work from the hottest rap group in the city to, the fashion team that I'm working with, to a lot of the athletes. It's just the level of work, the diversity is unbelievable. And now I'm just like, okay, so where can we go from here? What can we do now? How can I make this more resourceful than it already is? And I'm just always looking for that.
Okay. And what are some events or programs that are going on this year?
Well, like I had mentioned earlier, the Jump in the Summer with the youth event, followed by the fashion show. But far and before that, the foster youth presenting the Shark Tank set, I guess. They'll be doing that at the end of this month. So that's May, June. A lot of football camps. I have maybe 4 that I'm already planning to be in attendance at, as well as supporting and being there. Recently, a friend that we just kind of do the same thing. We're in the same type of world. She's more in the PR aspect of it, more heavily. And the athletes she works with are actually like contracted clients. They host like the celebrity softball game every year in Dearborn, and they have. She works with Kyle Vanoy, who does a lot of foster work with, giving back. Him and his wife just hosted this beautiful event at the Civic Center in Dearborn where they asked everyone to bring in items that they could donate to the youth for prom.
Aww.
And to see how many dresses and suits and shoes, it was I wanted to shop there. I was like, this is so nice. But it's just those little things that they're doing that majority of the people don't know that they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, so it's more of, you know, show everybody how creative you can get with working with the youth and how to get involved using your network. So, I mean, you said you're into the arts.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my mind is like, I can't wait to talk to you.
I know, that's what I was going to ask, because I know we've talked about fashion and athletics, but I was going to ask what you do with, like, do you do anything with, like, painting or drawing or things like that?
Currently, I don't have a specific actual art event, but that is something that I do want to work with because my older son, he's very creative when it comes to art. I mean, he brings home pieces from school. He made a piece of pie one day, and it was just sitting on the counter. I said, "Oh, who brought some pie?" And I went to pick it up, and I was like, "Whoa!" It was clay. It was made out of clay.
Oh, ceramic.
It was, yeah. It was so. It looked so real. Like literally, would have took a fork to it and tried to eat it. Yes. That's how real it looked. But he's so into it, and I mean, besides small classes here and there that I could get him to attend to, there isn't something that's consistent with that. I mean, he loves sports. He plays basketball, but what he's passionate about is art. So that's something that I'm looking to expand in because I've realized it's a therapy tool for a lot of youth.
Yes, to be able to express yourself that way.
Yep. One of the young men that currently resides at the foster house that I work for, he just, the most beautiful artwork. It's so funny because he'll draw it and just set it aside and be like, "Can I have it? I want to hang it in my office." He'll be like, "Fatima, it's really nothing." And I'm like, "No, I really like this. It's really nice artwork." And he was amazing enough to actually have some artwork drawn that we had raffled off at one of our fundraisers. And people were just bidding on these items. That's how fabulous it was because it is an emotional tool for them.
So you must be pouring his spirit and soul.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. It just, some of his pieces, I'm just like, help, somebody, let me get him somewhere to, that's the thing is I don't know people in that world yet. So, I mean, like I said, I'm basically fashion, music, and sports right now, but art hits home for me because of my son.
Absolutely. Are you involved with Detroit schools or Metro Detroit schools, and have they been open to working with you?
Actually, I do have some partners who are teachers at the Detroit schools, a lot of social workers. I have recently started to develop a network with a lot of the dignitaries in the city who've been very resourceful in helping to do that. I myself have not particularly been involved with the schools directly, but I do have connections within them. So that's another thing that I'm looking to do. I think one of the things we lacked last year with the picnic was being able to reach the schools and advertise that this is actually going on. So that's something that we are looking to do right now.
Like schools have been cutting like the art classes out and things like that. So how do you find? Have you noticed that is affecting the kids?
Art and music is something that is very bothersome to see the kids losing. Because, as I said earlier, it's therapeutic to the kids. Art and music. Have worked in the public school district for 10 years, when they reached the point where they were closing libraries. And I was just like, okay, so what else do they have? Where else are they going to go? They're not going to get this at the school. A lot of these kids don't have the resources to go anywhere and do any of the things that they're able to do in the school. So if they take it away from the school, what's going to happen? Well, sure enough, what happened was the kids were just more rambunctious. I felt like they didn't have an outlet anymore. They, were just feeling like there was nothing for them to do besides read books in class, and that's not what they want to do. I mean, myself, I'm not necessarily book smart. I'm more hands-on. I want to be able to go into my class and learn how to do whatever I need to do physically doing it. I want to be able to go to an art class and just have my silence and draw a picture. I'm not the best artist in the world, but it feels good after leaving there. I know my boys enjoy being in music, playing different instruments. There's a lot of instruments that I have no clue what they are. And they'll just come home and be like, this is so-and-so. I'm like, oh, really? Well, how do you work it? And, you know, just them not knowing and teaching me how to do it is exciting for them. It's something that the kids need.
Absolutely.
They absolutely need art. They absolutely need music. It's a different kind of learning for them.
Yes. And really, and I think having those types of creative outlets are important to the development of kids with themselves and their esteem and their energy levels and how they when they get frustrated, instead of doing something physical about it, being able to talk it out, or being able to draw it out, or those types of things. So it's really a shame to see it, but it's really amazing to talk to somebody like you who does free events for kids in the city, to see people who outside of schools are getting involved and care about the youth.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing.
It's a great feeling. And like I said, it's a lot of people are just like, how are you going to make a living out of this? It's not about making a living. It's not about being rich and famous. It's about impacting kids and getting their attention and getting them on the right path. Because I've had my time, and I feel like through my time, I've learned that this is my reason for being here. And my reason for being here is to use my experiences and my creative minds and my network to bring to life their dreams.
Thank you. Seriously, thank you. It's so awesome. Your work, reading about you, and talking to you inspires me. I think, I love children.